something just occurred. And last time this occurred, Bitcoin did this. And Bitcoin is going through a couple big things going on. All right, a couple big things, and people have mentioned it. And I'll bring up this chart right here. There's two crosses that's happening right now. So on a daily chart, which is the bottom one, we have formed a golden cross. The 50 has moved above the 200 moving average. That's called a golden cross, and that's bad. That's good. That's good. Now, on top here, unfortunately, on the weekly chart, we also have another cross going called the death cross. The 200 is about to move above the 50. So we have conflicting reports right now, okay? So not only do we have a weekly death cross, which traditionally is bad. In fact, Bitcoin's 14-year history has never seen a death cross on its weekly chart. But on the daily chart, a shorter time frame, we're getting that golden cross, which I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. But so like right now, there's this conflict. So the bears and bulls are kind of arguing which one is more significant. Here's the thing. Both of these crosses, they're using moving averages, either on a daily scale or weekly scale. You could do it on any time frame. They're considered lagging indicators. That means you have to have price movement move a certain direction for so long before those moving averages actually start moving down or upwards, right? So we have seen many times when we have formed a death cross, and that actually, even though it sounds bad, is actually good because that means we have found a bottom and we are recovering, right? And this could have happened because, well, we had the longest drawdown we ever seen for Bitcoin, even though previous drawdowns had a bigger percentage drop, but in terms of number of days, this last one we went through was the longest ever for Bitcoin. We had never seen a drawdown longer than the one we just experienced. So keep that in mind. So that could be the reason why we have never seen a weekly death cross, because previous cycles, previous bottoms, we recovered already, right? So there's that. So I wouldn't put much emphasis on this. I know the bears, the naysayers will say, well, this is horrible. You got to sell. You got to sell everything because the death cross is coming. No, I see the opposite. I see this as indication that we have hit bottom and we are now flipping above. And the daily golden cross supports that. If the daily golden cross coming up, you know that we are definitely coming up. And that's why I don't pay a lot of attention to the weekly death cross. I pay attention to this. This is what happened last time Bitcoin formed a golden cross. Actually, it formed a couple times. Sometimes it happens often, but sometimes when it does happen, like back in 2019, when we formed the golden cross after recovering from bottom, that's the most important thing, all right? We jumped up quite a lot. We jumped up 154%. It's relevant because that's exactly what we did. We just formed bottom and we're recovering up. Now, the other times you see here, sometimes they're just kind of like midstream. So, the ups and downs are not so prevalent. But the important one is to see the one in 2019 when we recover from bottom, we had a huge recovery upwards. I remember from 3,000 to about 14,000 really, really quickly, right? And if we follow the same footsteps, well, then we'll see about 60,000 in about 60 days, okay? And another thing to keep in mind, look at the golden cross when it formed in 2020, okay? That one brought Bitcoin up from 6,000 all the way up to basically 60,000. That is actually a 10x. Okay, I don't anticipate that we're going to see something like that right now, but good things have happened when we had golden crosses form on a daily chart. Okay, so I'm looking forward to it. Let's just put it that way. Now, there's one other interesting thing that TechDev pointed out. And I think a lot of people are wondering about this because how Bitcoin moves is traditionally according to a 4-year cycle, right? And there's so many charts that show this. When Bitcoin forms a bottom, when it starts recovering, right? And how high it goes. I mean, you could almost you know, if you laid upon each cycle on top of each other, they look almost identical. But why is that? Right? No one really knows. Like, is it just because retail investors know when to buy, or whales know when to buy and know exactly when to sell? Like, what causes that? Well, I think TechDev may be onto something, because he actually, let me remove my camera here. So he actually charted basically the Chinese 10-year bond with the US DXY, okay? And also on the bottom, he put the MACD. But if you look at it, it's interesting, because every time Bitcoin goes up, it's when the CN10Y breaks above the DXY. And every time it drops below the DXY, Bitcoin goes down. Like, every single time. Every single time Bitcoin went on a tremendous run, and we attribute it to the last year or 4-year cycle, it happens to be the years when the Chinese 10-year bond is very strong and breaks above the DXY. Right? Like, every single time. So if this is really the truth, if this is really the case, and I don't know why, I haven't put my mind around, if this is true, what this really means exactly. A lot of, when the dollar is showing strength against the Chinese bonds, money flows out of China and buys Bitcoin. I don't actually quite know what it means yet. But what I do know is this. It has just happened again. The CN10Y has broken above the DXY, and then we started recovering, right? Is it a coincidence? At this point, no. If you go back all the way to 2011, you can't say that's a coincidence anymore, right? So this is really interesting, really interesting. I need to do more research on it, but full credit to TechDev, who kind of drawn this out. It's actually very interesting to think about. Anyways, that's also showing Bitcoin is in a pretty good spot right now. Bitcoin conference tweeted that this is bullish. Shell, the second largest investor-owned oil and gas company, is sponsoring the Bitcoin conference. Normally, the Bitcoin conference is sponsored by other crypto companies, okay? You could see a lot of mining companies, right? I mean, they're usually crypto companies. But you have Shell out of nowhere sponsoring the conference. So they are definitely paying attention. A lot of oil companies are thinking about mining Bitcoin with their excess, what do they call it? They have all this excess gas they have to release. And people have figured out you could use that excess gas to power Bitcoin mining rigs. So they may be interested in that. Okay, or they just may be interested in Bitcoin and they want to put it on their balance sheet. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it is very, I would say it's bullish, like the Bitcoin conference tweeted.